On the plane ride back home to El Salvador, I began to make a list of ideas. I remembered a mantra I had often heard in brainstorming meetings: there are no bad ideas. By the end of the plane ride, I had already jotted down 24. I got 3 more walking by the airport stores and kiosks. Over the following weeks, the list grew longer each day. The world suddenly seemed full of opportunities to start businesses. Why, I wondered, had I not done this before? David was right. Not only could I come up with a great idea, I was an idea machine. Moore was happy that I was feeling so energized and excited. She knew me, in some ways better than I knew myself, and saw that the corporate career path I was on was becoming less and less fulfilling. Of course, I knew that whatever business I pursued, I needed and wanted full buy-in from Maura. So one evening, a couple weeks into my manic brainstorming, I brought out my notebook after the girls went to sleep. Sitting on our patio, overlooking the city lights, I flipped through my pages of notes and started with one I knew was a winner. I want to consolidate the dairy industry across Central America. I let the sheer brilliance of that one sit in the air for a minute, and then went on to explain that in the 7 countries of Central America, with a combined population of about 30 million and an economy the size of Ohio, there were 25 independent dairies, none of which were large enough to be efficient. The opening of fair trade with the U.S. had undercut small-scale corn growers in Mexico. The same could happen with dairy farmers in Central America, I told her. I already knew most of the players, as the business I ran for International Paper supplied the paper cartons for the milk. The small-scale milk producers were all at risk unless they consolidated and ran more efficiently. Dean Foods revolutionized the dairy industry in the U.S., I finished, and we could do the same in Central America. Maura thought for a moment, nodding her head. Dairy, she said, looking at me, both puzzled and bemused. You've hidden your passion for the dairy industry from me all these years. Let me ask you this. Besides the opportunity to make money, why do we want to be in that business? So we can go to more boring Dairy Federation trade shows in Chicago? Isn't that sort of the industry you're trying to get out of? How is this important for you and me and the girls and the rest of the world? Well, I said, suddenly feeling like I was being attacked, the girls drink milk. Maura cocked her head at me, indicating the lameness of the answer. Trying to get my momentum back, I doubled down and tried to convince her that there was a fortune to be made in dairy. Okay, I believe you, she said, interrupting my lecture. You can make a lot of money from consolidating dairies. Is that your main point? Clearly, this idea didn't impress her. I flipped through pages looking for a better one. Okay, what about trucking? This one I was pretty sure would wow her because I had become something of an expert on regional trade. I was a board member for the American Chamber of Commerce of El Salvador, and we were active in the negotiations of the Central American Free Trade Agreement between Central America and the U.S. One of the expected problem areas was trucking. I reminded Maura that there had been a boom in the trucking business when the U.S., Mexico, and Canada signed the North America Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and that the same was expected in Central America when this new agreement was signed. The trucking infrastructure that existed across the region was poor, limited, and inefficient. I knew this well, as the business I ran shipped packaging across the region, and it took days and was triple the cost to ship from San Salvador to San Jose, Costa Rica, than from New York to Pittsburgh, roughly the same distance. So I'll raise some money, I said to Maura, buy a couple of the best trucking companies, and then figure out how to make them world-class with new technology, best practices, good benefits for drivers, better safety. She said. Trucking. All the questions she had asked before hung in the air. Tell me, what is it about trucking that excites and inspires you? I stalled, knowing that I would likely regret anything that came out of my mouth. Trucking just doesn't do it for me, she said, reaching out her hand for the list as I surrendered it. She read aloud idea after idea. Shopping malls in Honduras, clothing manufacturing in Colombia, ecotourism in Costa Rica, exporting chocolate from Belize. When she got to trucking again, she was laughing so uncontrollably she couldn't keep reading. All right now, I admit some of these aren't that great, but don't you know the first principle of brainstorming is there are no bad ideas, I said, taking the notepad back but laughing with her at the same time. Well, she paused, taking